Paul Clemente was caught during the To Catch a Predator sting of Long Beach, California. He was 22 years at the time and believed that he was speaking to a 13-year-old female. Over the course of this video, I will dissect the chat log between he and the perverted Justice Decoy, and then take a look at his confrontation with Chris Hansen at the Sting House. The information that is available to us is only a small window into this person's life, and I'll be using this to speculate on what may have been going on with Paul at the time of the incident. Please keep in mind that these are my personal opinions, and the goal of this video is to give us all a closer look at Paul, then for you to take the information presented and formulate your own opinion on what sort of person that he may be. Let's dive into page 1, shall we? Paul asks how old she is, and she responds with, 13 you? He then tells her that he is 22, and the predator is exposed. 1 minute and 12 seconds to establish his predatory status. He says, too young then? Like older guys? Starting off by saying too young then is absolutely a good start, as he is correct. She is far too young then. Whether it be for a sexual partnership or a buddy-buddy friendship, this person at the age of 13 is too young to be forming any sort of connection with this man. Something that I'd like to address straight off the bat in this video is a point that was raised in my previous video. I stated then that I think when a friendship between a child and an adult is healthy and non-sexual, that it can be positive for both parties. I received some backlash for this statement, and for good reason. The statement that I just made then does not really represent how I feel about this topic overall. I use the word friendship only because I do not know how else to describe what it is that I'm about to refer to. I definitely do think that it is rather eyebrow-raising for an adult and a child to be friends, and I do not think it to be healthy for an adult to seek friendship with a child or vice versa. Yet at times, it is possible for a bond of sorts to naturally be established between an adult and a child. Likely this bond is between family members or close family friends, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and friends of the family, where a trusted member of a family's inner circle who is in this child's space frequently is able to be a part of that child's life and impart wisdom, lessons, and have all-round fun moments. This is what I refer to as a friendship, for lack of a better word. When a bond organically unfolds and a special connection is formed, the child is then able to learn a lot of things about the world that they are a part of, and the adult can possibly see the world with fresh eyes and insights. I'm also fully aware that some people use this bond, this organic trust that a child has, and they abuse it for their own sick gain, and I am aware that the world is not perfect. Because of this, children must be protected. They must be looked over by the adults that truly love them, and their exposure to adults be limited and restricted to people that they absolutely trust with their lives. I wanted to say all of this to clarify that in my previous video I was not advocating for children and adults who don't really know each other to go hang out like homies, to seek each other's company out online and go to parties together, movies, the park, call each other up and discuss each other's trials and tribulations of the day. I am exclusively referring to the special, organic, and unfortunately rather rare bond that an adult and child can form, which is healthy, safe, and free of any ill intent. There is a moment that I can recall in my life where I experienced this in a very profound manner. It was right before COVID struck us all. I was traveling through Bali and I had met a single mother who was living in a hut that she had built at the base of a waterfall. She had invited me and the person that I was traveling with to her house, as she was going to cook dinner and we were unsure where to get food from in the area. Upon arriving at her hut, her 8-year-old daughter was very excited that she had visitors from out of town. The young girl asked me many questions about my life, where I had come from and what I thought about the world. She told me about books that she had read and asked for recommendations. I actually ended up gifting her my copy of The Alchemist. Her intelligence was striking and her enthusiastic energy was contagious. We spent the entire evening speaking as a group about our lives and what life was like for each of us. The mother encouraging her daughter to give unrestricted insights into what being a child is like for her, and also encouraging us not to hold back on topics that may be affecting us, both positively and negatively. After dinner, we spoke for hours, and as it got late, we said our goodbyes and left back to our accommodation. When we had left the house, I couldn't help but to remember what my life was like when I was 8 years old. What sort of energy I had, and I began to think about the parts of myself that I had sidelined for quite some time. Shortly after this reflection, I had begun to make changes in my life, changes that I had needed to make for a long time. changes that I may not have made had I not had this moment with the young family in Bali. A notable mention is that I'd begun to write again, as I had stopped being a writer for many, many years, and I created a story where the main character's name was the same of the young girl that I had met. This gave me confidence in writing again, and eventually has led me to here where I've started to try my hand at writing these long-form scripts that look towards crime in society. Because of this, I can only say thank you to that young girl, and I would say that she is my friend. I am unsure what else to call her. My teacher, possibly, or just a young person that I had met who inspired me. I don't feel a need to maintain communication with her or her mother, and I'll likely never see either of them again in my lifetime. But what is important though, is that meeting her changed the direction of my life, and I can only hope that I had a positive impact in hers in some way. This is the powerful bond that I refer to between an adult and a child. If anyone knows how to describe this succinctly, without using the word friendship, then please do let me know, as I understand saying that children and adults can be friends is not the greatest way to refer to this. I've said it before, I believe children are our future. They are everything we have as a race, and we need to do our best to nurture them, inspire them, and protect them. These men that I take a close look at all attempted to commit one of the most awful crimes in my eyes, and although they were unable to follow through, and that they all have their own complicated reasons for what brought them to this low point in their life, that does not change the fact of what they were in that moment, a monster. These videos aim to dissect what made these people a monster in that moment, what they were thinking, all in an attempt to gain a closer look at an evil that usually goes unnoticed, as unfortunately we only really hear from victims after the fact. This is a rare moment in time where we can dissect what happened leading up to the fact. I understand that sometimes I do take a light-hearted tone to some of these videos, and this may come across like I find this topic a joke, but do not get me wrong. I take this topic with deadly seriousness, and my aim is to take a look at something that I can never truly understand. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Trying to understand what is going on here is much more than a joke to me, as I'm sure it is for many of you who watch these videos. Well then, I was not expecting that tangent to come out so early. If you're still with me, let's just awkwardly make our way back to the chat log, hey? Paul says, "Too young then," and I do agree with him. Yes, Paul, she is too young for you, for whatever it is that you're looking for. And instead of him leaving it there and moving along with his evening, he asks if she likes older guys. Like older guys? Yeah. Don't tell me you're already doing the, you know. Huh? Never mind. You're too young to know. Lol, yeah, okay. So you get it, huh? I've had boyfriends. And you did? Did what? There's lots of things we did. The horse ride kind of thing, you know. Lol, dude, just say what you mean, you're confusing me. S*X. Got it? 6? Socks? Sex. You did? Lol, oh yeah. Oh my god, when? Like 5 months ago. Oh my god, to be honest with you, it's my first time to hear a 13-year-old girl who had sex. Wow, lots of girls my age do. You're the first one. Okay. There's a few things going on here. First and foremost, it is pretty obvious that he would like to discuss sex, but he doesn't seem to want to outright say it. This clearly shows that he is well aware a conversation with this person is not good, not by any stretch of the imagination. He says, "Don't tell me you're already doing the, you know," to which she replies, "Huh?" And he says, "Never mind, you're too young to know." For him to say, "Don't tell me you're already doing the," and then leaving what he is talking about ambiguous, is a very sly way to open the line of sexual dialogue. To a child, this statement could very easily spark curiosity within them. The concerned tone that he takes, mixed with the mysterious subject matter, generally would get the child to ask some questions. It would provoke them to probe him about what it is he speaks of. Much to Paul's misfortune though, the decoy knows exactly when to play dumb, and she only responds with, "Huh." Paul then says, "Never mind, you're too young," leaving the subject matter of his question still up for the young girl to interpret. Generally speaking, young teens are at a pretty strange place in life. They're growing into young adults but aren't quite there yet, and all of the freedom that comes with being an adult is in plain sight, whilst all of the difficulties associated with it are masked. A young teen will generally crave the independence that is associated with being an adult, and they will want to be taken more seriously. They are starting to formulate stronger opinions and worldviews, and their personalities are taking more shape as they transition into adulthood. They want to be seen as mature, as they are feeling more mature than they have ever felt before in their life, and they no longer want to be treated as a child. Throughout this period, it is quite common to hear many comments such as, "Don't talk to me like I'm a child." "I'm a very mature 13-year-old. I've experienced a lot more than you would know." And my own personal go-to when I was a young teen? "I know what I'm doing." I do understand that some young people have been through more than many adults, and there are teenagers out there who can hold down conversations of immense depth, far better than people who outrank them in age. So I would like to re-clarify here that I am generalizing. Paul, on some level, is likely aware of this desire a teen has to be seen standing on their own 2 feet. As you will see while the chat progresses, it looks like he talks to a lot of young people online. So for him to say that you're too young to know, it seems to me like he is trying to tap into that part of a young teen's mind and get her to say something along the lines of, "I am not too young for anything." Once she says something like that, then he could throw a few compliments her way and the sexual dialogue begins. The decoy isn't having a bar of it though, and doesn't even acknowledge Paul's attempt to entice sexual dialogue, as she responds with, "Lol, yeah, okay." Paul, grasping at an opportunity that seems to be slipping away from him, puts words into the decoy's mouth and says, "So you get it, huh?" He wants the young girl to know what he is talking about, and because she didn't outright claim one way or the other, he has decided for her that she gets it. The decoy then says that she has had boyfriends, and alludes to having had sexual experiences before. Paul wants to know what she has done in the past with her boyfriends, and in one of the most bizarre ways that I've ever heard sex described, he says, "Have you done the horse ride kind of thing?" Let's break that down a little, hey? The girl has stated that she has done lots of things with her ex, and instead of Paul outright asking if one of those things would happen to be sex, he poses it in a question that seems very innocent. He is aware on some level that she may have no understanding of what sex actually is, and instead of wanting to turn the conversation down a path that could be a rather uncomfortable and raw conversation about what sex is, he chooses to keep an air of playfulness and mystery about it. Sex is many things. It can be fun, enjoyable, and meaningful. It can also be confronting, anxiety-inducing, and confusing. Attempting to keep the conversation as far away from things that could touch on the negative aspects of sex as possible, he chooses to ask her about it in a playful and easy-to-digest manner. Describing it this way makes it sound like something that a child may actually want to partake in. What child doesn't enjoy horse rides? They're exciting, fun, pleasant, and exhilarating. I'm surprised he didn't change the word horse for pony though, as that would have been more aimed towards a young girl, hey? I know I'm really focusing on this line, but I find it fascinating as it also indicates his insecurity around talking about sex. He doesn't know how to approach the topic at all. Possibly other girls he's outright asked have told him that he's gross, or him wanting to talk about it as gross. And so now he's devised a way to pose this question wrapped in a more digestible format. The decoy tells him that he is confusing her with this question, and it is then clarified, after some effort, that he is in fact talking about sex. She reveals that she has had intercourse before, and he expresses surprise as she is the first girl her age that he's spoken to who has had sex. A troubling comment indeed, which leads me to assume he does this quite often with young girls. The decoy says that a lot of her friends have engaged in sex before, and this indicates that she not only seems comfortable with the idea, but no eyebrows will be raised if she decides to talk to her friends about the experience with him. As we move further down the page, Paul wants to know if she has a webcam, and if he can get a few more pics of her. He also learns that her ex-boyfriend that she last had sex with was 19 years of age. After they exchange photos of each other, the decoy calls Paul cute. "Show me one of yours." "See it?" "Yeah, you're cute." "You serious?" "Lol, yeah, why?" "Some girls my age said I'm ugly." "Oh, that sucks. You're not at all." "Dat pic was before I work out. I lost 20 pounds after that." Paul has mentioned that some girls his age consider him to be ugly, and it's an interesting comment to make. I will pull it apart under the assumption that he is telling the truth. As a society, we have standards of beauty that everyone is pitted against. Throughout our lives, both males and females are presented with images and stories from various sources of what a gorgeous human looks like, of what a perfect partner would feel like, and how a relationship is meant to work for us. In conjunction to this sensory bombardment, we are also very much left to our own devices to navigate the confusing landscape of love, all in an attempt to devise our own definition of attractiveness, both inner and outer. There are no classes in school that teach us how to handle relationships, rejection, how love can be formed, or more pertinent to this moment, a complete, honest, and healthy breakdown of what is and isn't attractive. We must sail these unknown seas of what we find beautiful and what the world tells us is beautiful, and then somewhere along the lines try to find a middle ground between the external sources and our inner dialogue. This is a rather difficult task, as the world constantly fluctuates and everyone around us grows. The idea of what is attractive changes as everything else changes around us, and the older we get, the more confusing I find it becomes. For example, when I was younger, I thought an attractive male was a big, bulky, Rambo-looking guy with bulging muscles and a hardened emotional shell. Then as I grew older, I began to realize that a more sensitive, skinny, and refined, nerdy-looking man was what people found attractive now. As I currently progress through my 30s, I have no idea what attractive is. Maybe a male who wears a suit, is confident, and has a financially stable job? Or it could be a younger, skater-looking guy who turns his back on social norms, opting for a fun lifestyle rather than one of constant career-focused drain. Possibly a scientist, a sportsman, a CEO, a musician. I really have no idea what the male example of mainstream attractiveness is right now. I suppose all of the above could fit it, right? I can only assume that it rests more in the individual these days. Rather than one conforming to an idea, we make the ideas conform to us as individuals. As long as we are confident and successful within our own lives, then any outward physical appearance can be attractive. Or maybe that's just where I'm at in life. It's quite the argument, and one that I'm sure we all could ponder and debate for many hours. So to prevent me going too far off topic, I'd like to highlight that my small dialogue here can represent to a degree the struggle that we as people face as we try to establish who we are in the world. Whether one cares about their attractiveness to interested parties or not does not change the fact that we are all human, and we do all operate within this world's boundaries. Be it as little as scoffing at the people who obsess over physical appearance, or as much as being one who obsesses, we all fall on this scale somewhere. And now my attention turns to Paul. I would say that this man thinks about his physical appearance a lot, and that his idea of male attractiveness lies purely on the physical spectrum. He has mentioned just then to the decoy about his losing of weight, and he also says later on in the chat log that he is chubby and not that tall. It would appear that Paul probably does not think highly of himself from a physical standpoint, yet this doesn't seem to deter him from trying his hand at heavy-handedly opening sexual dialogue with people. I would imagine that he speaks to most women with sexual intent oozing from every pore in his body, and this vibe would be the cause to most women rejecting him. Instead of Paul looking inwards at his personality and trying to figure out if there is a problem there, he instead looks outwards at his physical appearance being the culprit. This oblivious nature would lead to a lot of rejection, and that appears to have taken him down a pretty dark path. He now trolls chat rooms looking for young girls, as young girls may not feel as intimidating for him to approach. He likely thinks that a young teen may not have had enough life experience yet to have the confidence to outwardly reject him. Yes, he is likely emotionally scarred from a lot of rejection, but he is also very sex-focused and completely unaware of his own ill intent. This is a very dangerous mixture, as he now directs his sexual attention towards vulnerable minors. The chat continues, and the two discuss things like long-distance relationships and relationships with older guys. Paul then questions the decoy if she will be his girlfriend. I guess I got a girlfriend now. Cool. Will you? Will I what? Be my girl? Yeah, totally. Even though it took a long time before we have sex? I'm in SD, remember? Yeah, but it's cool. I'm a very faithful person. Aw, me too. You can count on me. Good. I love you. Really? I'm in love. You're so sweet. Thank you. You're so nice. Thanks. You too. You're so understanding. Thank you. I love you. Love you too. So when's the time I can come to your house? Of course, when your mum is not around. The word love is a pretty powerful word, one that should be used with caution, yet we see Paul throw it at the decoy as though it's worth nothing. The decoy tells Paul that she loves him back, and then Paul would like to know when he can come over, when her mum's not home, of course. Paul himself must be rather obtuse, as he ignores the fact that the decoy doesn't once ask why her mum can't be home. He just assumes that this 13-year-old is aware that what he wants is illegal, and either doesn't seem to care or is thoroughly on his side. For him to not even question her about her lack of interest on this topic really goes to show how delusional he is and how obsessed with the idea of sleeping with a young child he has become. He is ignoring clear red flags here that should be triggering his survival mechanisms, only to further perpetuate the fantasy in his mind becoming a possible reality. They go on to talk a bit more about Paul coming to visit the decoy, and she lets him know that this coming Friday her mum is going out of town for the weekend. Well, I'm not in LA. My mum made me promise not to tell people where I am, but she's leaving Friday for New York. So where are you now? Long Beach? I'm asking for your address. Why you're so scared? I'm not a bad person. At this point, I'm pretty sure Paul is actually convinced that he is not a bad person. Later on, when Hansen confronts him, he says that he's not a real predator, something that I will look at closer when we get there. But for now, I'll say that it would appear Paul has come to terms with what he wants as being okay, and it's just the world that thinks it's bad because the world generalizes on these things. Everyone is just not recognizing that his case is an exception to the rule. He likely thinks that people who go after children for romantic partnerships are vile men, old and full of sadistic intent. And because he is younger and knows that he is not fueled by a violent need to sleep with a child, he thinks that he escapes the judgment that could come with what he wants to do with this child. He sees himself as the good one. I would go as far to say that he probably believes that what he wants with the child is beneficial to both parties, thinking that he would make a loyal, faithful, and loving boyfriend. This is what I assume he thinks sets him apart from the other predators. He sees them as evil monsters, and himself as a sweet man. The decoy tells Paul that she will give him the address when her mum leaves, as she doesn't want to get into trouble if her mum catches her giving out an address. And then Paul again goes on to express his love for her, something that from this point on becomes a running theme throughout the log. I love you, babes. You're so sweet. Thank you. I love you. Really? I mean, you just met me. A love at first chat. Lol, never heard of that. Now you know. Educating us all with that one, Paul. I haven't heard of it either. And now, just like love at first sight, I'll probably go on for the rest of my life wondering if that is actually a real thing or not, hey. I promise you, love. I promise you, I love you no matter how far, no matter how long our age gaps, and no matter what others react. Important is we love each other. You love me? I don't know, I just met you. But you said you love me. I know, I'm sorry. Okay, I love you. I'm sorry if it's fast. He's really going all in at this point. It's difficult to deduce whether he is lying about his love here or not. It is highly plausible that he could be saying whatever it takes to ensure that a physical meetup occurs, but I do think otherwise. I think he has fallen to some pretty strong feelings right now, and not feelings of love, even though he would likely argue otherwise, but feelings of obsessive lust, something that I think can very frequently be mistaken for love. It sounds like he has finally found someone who gets him, someone who hears what he is saying and doesn't immediately run the other way. On top of that, he expresses that her pictures are cute, and with him being sex-focused, finding someone who is willing to even slightly humor his sexual dialogue would be like gold to him. The decoy has presented him with a rather blank canvas where he can paint his own image in his mind of who she is, and he has painted her into his dream girl. Sure, there's a few problems here and there, but nothing that his love can't overcome. For starters, there's the age thing, and there's also the issue of how others may react to this union. But nothing to fear, as his love will overcome these hurdles just because. He acknowledges these issues, and instead of trying to have a real conversation with the decoy about how they will overcome them as a couple, he tries to manipulate her. Let's take a closer look at his statements and how this works. The way most people in relationships approach difficulty is with honesty, as this is the easiest way to come to a solution that works for both parties. And if there is mutual respect between both parties, then a decision that best outcomes them both is what the goal should be. Let's say that there is an imaginary couple that are facing challenges in their relationship. Maybe they are growing apart from one another, and both parties can feel the distance. Let's say if the couple were to break up, one party would benefit a lot and the other party would lose out, so it's quite a difficult decision for them both to make as they respect each other. A healthy way to resolve this conflict of interest would be to discuss the situation together in its entirety, as honestly as possible, to analyze where they are both coming from and what both of their lives look like, where are they headed, and then they can make an informed and mutually agreed upon decision on how the relationship should proceed or end. The important part here is that both parties are honest. Look, I know, sure, this is an ideal circumstance that I've explained above, as both parties seem rather level-headed, and not all people who experience relationship breakdowns like this react as well as my imaginary friends. But in saying that though, even if the conflict in the scenario explained above were to go poorly, this can still be an honest, albeit painful conflict, with both parties expressing themselves dramatically and causing hurt, but still coming to a resolution at the end that is formed on an honest foundation. Now, if we take that same imaginary scenario and then change one of the people to be a manipulator, they would approach this from a much different angle. Let's say the man is manipulative and is the one who is not going to benefit from the loss of the relationship. It would be common to see him engage in behavior that resembles what Paul is doing here. He would be implanting ideas in her mind that will work in his favor down the track. It's like sowing seeds of thought that can blossom into what she would believe to be her own organic thoughts, if a certain set of triggers are ever met. This man, in my imaginary example, would try to convince his partner that she needs him and that he needs her, that he is of more value than what he actually is, and could even go as far as ignoring the problems they face and pretending like everything is not only okay, but more than okay, essentially making her feel ashamed for feeling the disconnect. To give more tangible examples to this example, he may say things like, "I've never been this happy in my life. Remember when we traveled together and how amazing that was? I look forward to doing that again sometime. And when we're together, we can overcome anything." He would say these things knowing full well that they are essentially lies, thus causing the female party to question her own feelings of disconnect. It is a tricky game that some people play, and the best way to protect yourself from it is to always listen to your own feelings and instincts. If something doesn't feel right, then discuss that with people you trust, and definitely not the person that you feel uncomfortable about. Paul in the chat log here is tapping into a version of this style of manipulation. He is implanting the idea into the decoy's mind that they are meant to be together, that the age gap is no problem because he said so, and that if people react poorly to them being together, then that is also no problem. He is saying that he is willing to face those challenges and essentially is trying to make her feel tied to him in the face of adversity. Very cunning words indeed, as he is beginning to prep her for the problems that they may face together in the future. I really haven't decided yet either if he is aware that he's doing this or not. As I mentioned in my previous video, not all people are aware to the manipulation that they take part in, as it can often formulate from emotions that then operate the conscious actions from a subconscious level, leaving the manipulator completely unaware of the tactics and techniques that they are utilizing in an attempt to control. This is a very layered topic, which I could explore in far more depth, but for the sake of the chat log, I'll move on from it. I love you. I'm sorry if it's fast. It's okay. You're very sweet and I like you. Really? Yeah. I've been doing this to other girls. You're the only one noticed. What you mean? Girls have different standards. I passed your standards. Paul, you damn romantic. What a way to a girl's heart, hey? Tell her you love her. Proceed to detail that the love you feel has no limits. Then inform her that you've been saying these things to many other girls, and that she's just the only one who stuck around. Wow, that girl must feel really special winning his heart by default. How he has been rejected by women, I will never know. A bit further on from this moment, we see the all too common game of predator chicken. The push and pull where both parties try to get the other to mention that they want sex, without exclusively mentioning the word sex. So, what are we doing when I go to your house? I don't know, whatever you want. No, I don't want that. It's whatever you want. Uh-huh. I don't want you to say you're my slave. Your wish is my command. Lol, that's not what I mean. Okay, what you wanna do? What you think? I don't know. I'm down to everything, so tell me. Cool, me too. So tell me. I don't know. What, we got a hot tub? Are you good doing it on a hot tub? Doing what? The sex. Was it inside the house? Oh, yeah. You're making me horny. Really? I believe Paul meant to say that he is making himself horny as he talks and thinks about the sex. The decoy offhandedly mentions that she has a hot tub, and sure, it's a little suggestive, but it's also completely devoid of any explicit sexual content. Paul immediately takes her mention of a hot tub and shifts it towards a sexual place before claiming that she is making him horny. Before the log can progress any further, Paul does have a confession to make. I have a confession to make. Please don't be alarmed. Kay, you're gonna be my first. For real? See, I knew it. You won't believe me. Laugh out loud, it's cool. You sure? I'm shy now. Sorry. He admits that he hasn't had sex yet and that she will be his first, and he mentions all of this in a dialogue that appears to be wrapped in shame. I'm going to quickly skim over the part that it sounds like he's assuming in a manipulative manner that they will be having sex, and I'm going to go straight to the fact of whether I believe him about his virginity here or not. It would go with the character that he has portrayed so far to believe his words, as he sure talks like he has no experience with the opposite sex. Yet it still for some reason doesn't sit right with me, so I will need to think about this one some more. As I go over this moment, I've begun to realize that these words actually represent how I feel about Paul and his chat log as a whole. It summarizes the entire 10 pages quite nicely. He is likely telling the truth about his virginity, but it's the intent behind this statement that is shrouded in fog. Saying this to a child would make him seem like less of a threat, that's for sure, and it's a highly predatory thing to say, but I really don't know if he means it to be that predatory. As I mentioned earlier, he sees himself as a good guy and is completely oblivious to the predatory nature of his words and actions. This is what this chat log is. A highly insecure individual who believes he has good intentions, yet everything he does is layered with manipulative and sexual undercurrents, which he is completely oblivious to. I do find it to be a very interesting case study, that's for sure. He goes on to ask the decoy if size matters to her, and she responds with, "Why? Are you fat?" I really don't think that was the size that he was referring to, but admirably he rolls with the punches, admitting to being chubby, and she tells him that she doesn't care about that. Coming up is more predator chatter. They talk about his car, and he asks if he can buy her a webcam because he wants to see her naked. This gets discussed for a little while as Paul gets really focused on her mum not finding the webcam if he were to buy it. There is one interesting line amongst the chatter which further aligns with my interpretation that he thinks he is a decent man. In regards to seeing her on cam, he says, "The important thing is if you want. I'm not forcing you because I'm not that kind of guy. Girls' feelings is important." That's right, Paul. Girls' feelings is important. They play some more Predator Chicken and then exchange names. Paul tells her that he loves her again, and then the decoy says that she needs to go to bed. Before she goes to sleep though, we have a pretty provocative line from the decoy. Paul says, "Miss you now." "Aw, me too. Good night, and I'm glad I met you." "Really?" "Yeah." Wait. What?" "Hope we sleep together side by side." "Sweet, huh?" "Yeah." "I'm glad I met someone like you. You're so sweet." "Thank you. I gotta go." The decoy initiates this round of emotional dialogue as she says that I'm glad I met you. It may not sound like much, but from what I've read, to a person like Paul, this would be like crack to him. This one line would be enough for him to obsess over and over, remembering how it felt when she said that, and further pushing his obsessive tendencies into getting that feeling again. He probably feels as though in this moment all in the world is right, and as it quickly fleets, he will work double time to retain that feeling. What I'm describing above as well is actually quite a common thing amongst humans. When we have any sort of positive experience, like if we are greeted with something that makes us feel good, be it success, validation and recognition, humor, or even basic communication, When these things make a positive impact, our brains give us a dopamine release, which then links that event with the feeling of a slice of euphoria. A little side note. This is how the mechanics of poker machines, gacha mobile games, and social media run their algorithms. Say we open up Instagram and we build anticipation as we wait to see if the likes to our latest post are a number that we are satisfied with. We observe the number, and if it's acceptable, we get a dopamine release, making us want to engage with the platform more. If the number is not acceptable though, we crave for that release, making us engage with the platform more. Same thing with poker machines. Push the button, build anticipation. Result is either in our favor or not, but the overall outcome is generally the same. The user will want to play another round. So before I find myself going down a rabbit hole of evil algorithms, I'll refocus back on the log. Clearly this line from the decoy would serve as a dopamine release for Paul, and the indicator to this can be observed as he desperately asks her to wait, don't go yet. He really wants to say something else. He ends up spouting out whatever sweet words his mind can conjure, as his brain stutters to squeeze another magical line from the decoy, but the decoy doesn't give it to him, she only gives him generic responses. He then tries to organize a time to meet online the next day at 10 p.m, and they both depart for the night. The next night, it appears that the decoy misses their 10 p.m. meeting, and Paul talks to himself. You online? You there? Did you receive my message earlier? Sorry, I had class. Miss you. I thought you're gonna be online at 10 p.m. Sniff. It's okay. Love you. Good night. The decoy responds the following morning, and Paul wants to clarify that her mum will be out of town for the weekend. They discuss a lot of meetup logistics, especially surrounding the location of the house in relation to the neighbor's house. And he is also pretty concerned about where he should park and what time he should arrive. Despite these concerns though, it doesn't stop him from quickly snapping back into loving boyfriend mode, telling her that he loves her multiple times, that he misses her, and he begins to get really expressive with these emotions. Miss you. Miss you too. Are you staying late? I got class. I'm leaving in a minute. I love you. Can you wait for a little bit? I'm gonna miss you. Kay, if I can. I'm excited to see my babes. Me too, I'm way excited. Are you really sure about our long-distance relationship thingy? I love you. I don't know, never did it. We try. Love you. Kay, love you. Aww. Why? I thought you loved me too. I like you a lot, but I don't know if I love you till we meet and we hang out. You'll never regret, 'cause I like you too. You're kind and very understanding. Thank you, you're so sweet. You're welcome. You're sweet too. Thank you. Gotta go. Bye. See you tomorrow. There's not too much to analyze in this section that I haven't already. I just thought it amusingly interesting how frequently he begins to tell her that he loves her. The next day, they continue to chat, and Paul tells her that he can't make it on Friday, but that he can come on Saturday instead. A bit more predator chicken gets Paul a little closer to admitting his attentions, and then the day that follows, Paul begins to show a lot of signs that could be cause for concern. It is starting to resemble an unhealthy attachment and obsession with a growing disconnect from reality. You there? I'm home. Please come back. Miss you. Got kicked off again. You online? Babes? Yeah. Miss you. Miss you too. So how are you? How's school? I'm good. School's okay. How are you? I'm okay. Thank God I'm home. Chatting with you. Lol, cool. He's showing signs of serious attachment to a 13-year-old girl here, asking her to come online for him and that he misses her constantly. He's also beginning to engage in conversation that resembles one of a relationship, something we really haven't seen any predators do yet, out of the ones that I've looked at anyway. Most predators so far have been pretty boorish with their approach, like a drunken brute who has stumbled their way into a museum, knocking over everything in their path as they try to touch the art on display that's just out of reach. But Paul here, he has more... I was inclined to say finesse, but that's definitely not the right word. He is just as bad as the others, if not worse. Stumbling around too, just in a different way. I would be seriously concerned for the safety of this child should this scenario be real. The ongoing issues that this could cause for the girl, as it appears Paul doesn't just want to do the damage and run. He wants to be around for a long time and to form an unhealthy bond with this girl. He doesn't just want her body, but he wants her attention, affection, and her time. Paul reconfirms that her ex-boyfriend was 19 and that she is definitely single now. Okay, just checking if you are really single. I don't want trouble. Laugh out loud, I am. Moi. Love you, babes. They also exchange how tall they are in between his swoons. I miss you. Lol, K. How tall are you? 5'4"? Cool. You? I'm not that tall. 5'8". Cool. Yeah, it's cool. I love you. Thank you. They discuss driving directions and more concern over the neighbors comes up. The decoy also asks Paul to bring condoms, and he asks how many does she want. We get Paul clearly admitting here to what he wants to do. You gonna bring condoms? Of course. K, cool. How many you want? Laugh out loud, I don't know. How many you think? Look, I ask you one more time. I'm not forcing you. You really want to do this? Dude, I told you it's cool with me if you want to. You're the one who seems scared, not me. I'm respecting you, that's why. It's cool. Do you then? Do I what? Do you want to do it? Yes. Okay, cool. As the two try to organize the best time to meet up, Paul is once again concerned about the neighbors. The decoy would like Paul to arrive later and gets pretty provocative with her attempt to bring him to the house at her desired time. Just come at 1 and stay till it's night, then leave. 12:30 the earliest. I'll try, okay? Okay, I love you. Really? Then you come then, and stay with me till night? I'll try, okay? Try hard, okay? I will. It will totally suck if you can't. It appears hearing the word suck just totally derails Paul's train of thought. For almost an entire page, he's pretty paranoid about what time they should meet, and then all of a sudden the decoy mentions the word suck and it all washes away. Explicit content warning coming up. It will totally suck if you can't. Suck what? The weekend my mum's gone will suck if you can't come over and I gotta sit here by myself. If I come over, I suck your tits and your pussy very hard. It ain't gonna hurt, is it? I'm not gonna let it hurt you. I'll be gentle, babes. K. I find his comments here to be troubling, as he has mentioned earlier in the log that he is still a virgin, which I can only assume means he has had no sexual experiences before. So how can he be certain that this won't hurt for the young girl? It would seem that this sexual confidence is now an act. He's playing into a fantasy role that he's never been able to live before. On top of it all, this dialogue was completely unprovoked and left of field. He went from 0 to 100 in the sexual drag race within a second, and it doesn't stop there. You're good sucking cock? Never did it before. I thought you had sex before. I did, but I didn't do that. Okay. You got effed in the ass? No. Me neither. Oh yeah, Paul? You never got effed in the butt, hey? I'm going to put that one down to a poor choice of words on his part. It appears that this guy more than likely really is a virgin and has watched a bit of porn, so is pretty curious as to what the girl has done before and what he may be able to do with her. The sexual dialogue ends there, and the chat once again moves along with the two discussing logistics of the meeting, mostly surrounding the girl's mother and where she's going and how often she goes away. I'm unsure if I'm missing a part of the log here, but out of nowhere, Paul seems to want to expose himself to the decoy on camera. At 11:58 p.m., the conversation falls into a lull, and the last thing Paul mentions is that he can't be sure if he will come on Saturday or not, as he may have work. Then, 2 minutes later at midnight, this comes out of nowhere. I'm going to read the entirety of this section for no other reason that I find it rather comical, but this is going to be a long one, so I'll see you all on the other side of it, hey? I just want to wait till my parents sleep so I can show you my thingy. I'll laugh out loud, okay. So would you wait? Yeah, I would try. You there? Yep. Ready? 1 sec. My mum, be right back, okay? Wait, my parents went up. Cool, lock your door. Ain't got no lock. Just be sure your mum's not there. She ain't. Okay, ready? Yeah. Just type so I know you're there. I'm here. Wow. Like it? Yeah. Help me here, I'm horny. What you want me to do? Want me to come on your face? Yeah, I guess. Where did guys come? While they have sex with you? Oh, he had condoms. Okay. Wait a sec. Wait. I just starting. But you see them come, right? Yeah, sorta. You can finger yourself if you like. Mum, I gotta go. Be on tomorrow. Wait. Just a minute, please. Hurry, 'cause she's in her room. Just type, okay? Don't hold back. Okay. Like it? Yeah. Just say horny things. Like what? What makes you horny? My dick, right? Yeah. So say something about what you would want to do with it. Anything until I come. Just make it fast. Anything. I don't know what to say, and my mum's here. Oh yeah? Oh God. You're there? Yeah. Just type. I'm nervous 'cause my mum. Just minimize when your mum gets back. Go on. I gotta go, she's coming. What on absolute earth was all of that, hey? I felt like I was reading a script from some long-lost Adam Sandler film in the 90s or something. We have a predator here working himself up into a state of elation, desperate for the other person to fill a role that he could never possibly fill himself. And he's completely unaware that the person who he was sharing this moment with is not who they appear to be. Then, right at the crucial moment of release, the decoy just refuses to give him any of the material that he wishes to have. It's pretty grim stuff, but also somewhat humorous, depending what angle you're looking at it from. I've read a bunch of logs now, and whenever I get to the more graphic details, I find my skin crawling. Not with Paul though. Reading through his inner monologue of sexual transcript, I find rather amusing, non-threatening, and all-round comical. And what I came to realize after much thought is how dangerous that is. This guy may actually be one of the guys who has a better chance of slipping by a child's defenses. The people who seem least threatening can often be the biggest threats. The next day, Paul is on his way to meet the decoy. It appears that he's using a mobile connection as he is chatting with her whilst he drives. During the trip, he says, "Is it okay you buy a condom? I just fill up my gas and no money left. Just tell them it's for your science project, please." Where does he think this 13-year-old is getting money from? Isn't he the one with the job? I have so many questions regarding this request, and none of them are pertinent to this analysis, more just to quench my own curiosity of what he is thinking in this moment. When meeting up with someone for the first time, I really never want to come across like I'm a cheapskate, and asking someone who's in school to buy this item is really redlining on the cheapskate scale. Paul also wants to know about the decoy swimwear and if she will wear it into the hot tub. He's especially interested to know about if she has two-piece bikinis. He's also pretty keen to know if she has a thong, as he asks her twice, to which both times she tells him that she does not. Paul finally arrives at the house, and we wrap up the log with this. "Hello? I'm near. You there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "You're almost here?" "Can you go out too?" "Miss you." "Okay, come down my street. I'll be out the front." "Can I park on your driveway? I'm exiting." "Pull on the street, not in the driveway, 'cause people will see it." "Just go out now. I forgot the number." "Dude, hurry up, laugh out loud." "Go out. What are you wearing?" "Where you at? I looked for you and can't see you." "I'm here, in front. Get out. Get out. I want to see you." So, that's the chat log. Let's move over to the Sting house and see how this blossoming romance unfolds. In the beginning here, there will be some pockets of no audio, as I have removed Chris Hansen's voiceover clips.
Hi, how are you doing? Come on in. All right, can you pour me a drink really fast? Because...
Sure, no problem.
Thanks. Awesome, yeah. I'm just gonna go get my hair ready. I'll be right back.
Take your time.
I'm excited, by the way.
Me too.
Unfortunately, I cannot find a version of this footage where Paul and the decoy speak to one another and it be uninterrupted by the voiceover, which is unfortunate as it appears that Clemente may be trying to mask his foreign accent. This is only a small nitpick and something that I won't focus on too much, as without more footage to analyze, it is just making assumptions. But listen closely to the 3 lines of dialogue that we have between Paul and the decoy.
Sure, no problem. Take your time. Me too.
The way he says "me too" sounds strikingly like someone with an American accent.
Me too.
And the "oh sure, no problem" sounds like an attempt to put on an American accent.
Sure, no problem.
Yet when he says "take your time," it seems as though his American accent is not present.
Take your time.
As I mentioned, it is unfortunate that we don't have more dialogue to work with here, as I think this decoy-predator dynamic right at the start would be fascinating to pull apart. My initial speculations on this would be that if he were putting on an American accent, I would argue that it does line up with his character. He has indicated insecurities with his body and has found himself with feelings for the decoy. And now that he has met up with her, he wouldn't want something like a foreign accent to possibly ruin his chances of the young girl connecting with him.
I'll be right back.
Take your time.
I'm excited, by the way.
Me too.
So you excited too? How you doing?
I'm sorry.
Why don't you have a seat right there? I need to ask
I'm
you a couple
sorry,
questions.
I'm sorry.
Why don't you have a seat and tell me how sorry you are? What's wrong?
I'm sorry.
Please have a seat.
I'm sorry.
What were you doing here?
Here we have the first of the men who I've taken a look at that knows just exactly what he's walked into. Paul is clearly preparing himself for that of a romantic encounter. These small movements and gestures as he rubs his hands together and grooms his hair indicate nerves and anticipation for what is about to come. I can only imagine that running through his mind right now is a dialogue that resembles a pep talk. Assuming that he is being truthful about his virginity, then he has been waiting for this moment for a long time, and now that it is finally here, he is getting ready to join the ranks of all the other men on the planet who have also had sex. This act that seems so common amongst adults, that he has watched over and over again with pornography, yet has evaded him for so long, is finally within his grasp.
So you excited too? How you doing?
I'm sorry.
Why don't you have a seat right there? I need to ask
I'm
you a couple
sorry,
questions.
I'm sorry.
Why don't you have a seat and tell me how sorry you are?
As soon as Hansen walks out with a signature one-liner, Paul's immediate response is to say, "I'm sorry." At this point, the analysis of Clemente will shift into a different gear than usual, as he is aware of what is going on. Because he is aware that he is on television, the spiral of shame, regret, and self-preservation has kicked in, and he knows that there is no way out. This is apparent as he covers his face immediately with his shirt and repeats, "I'm sorry," between sniffles. The pressure that Clemente currently faces is on a much larger scale than the other men that I've looked at, and because of that, he is not fighting. He has succumbed to defeat and is expressing honest remorse. The remorse is likely not because he tried to sleep with a child either, but because he got caught. Yet nonetheless, it is remorse. The other men that I've looked at, not knowing what is going on, think that they are able to talk their way out of the scenario with Hansen. This gives us an intimate and honest look into how their manipulative sides work during the confrontation, whereas Clemente here does not have the same luxury. The bricks have thoroughly hit him and he's going straight to survival mode. Paul will be presenting his defense not to the unknown entity that is Hansen, but to the world. He knows that everyone is watching this, and therefore only half speaks to Hansen, while the other half speaks to us.
What's wrong?
I'm sorry.
Please have a seat.
I'm sorry.
What were you doing here?
She said so excited to see me.
She said she was excited to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm sorry, sir.
What?
She said so excited to see me.
I know. I need you to stay right over there, though.
I'm
Do me a
sorry.
favor. Right. So you see where you're going, right there on the stool.
I didn't say anything bad, sir.
You didn't say anything bad.
Sir, please.
I'd like you to take a look at this. You sent her that photograph.
Sir, please.
Did you send that to her?
Yes, sir.
To somebody who said she was a 13-year-old girl.
Oh my God. Sir, please. I'm not a really bad person, sir. Please.
She says we have a hot tub.
Yeah.
You say, are you good doing it in a hot tub? Doing what? You say the sex.
No.
I can see you naked?
Sir, please.
Please what?
Sir, I'm not.
He's asked Hansen, "Sir, please," a number of times now, and Hansen finally addresses the question. Chris says, "Please what?" And Paul is not able to answer. I assume that Paul has been repeating "Sir, please" in an attempt to show submission and to beg for Chris to let him go. When he asks "Sir, please," he wraps a number of things within the statement. He is saying, "I'm not a bad person. I wasn't going to force anything. I thought this was going to be an amazing experience for us both, as she led me to believe that we were in love. Please don't put this on television. Please don't let the police arrest me." And everything is just a big misunderstanding. This is why he is unable to answer Chris when addressed with this question. It's just far too big for Paul to say all of that and more under this amount of pressure. As you can see, his brain buckles under the weight and he is unable to clarify to Hansen what he wants to say.
Sir, please.
Please what?
Sir, I'm not.
I also think that he doesn't mention immediately that he knows this is a television program, because not mentioning it is essentially not acknowledging the reality of the situation, and his mind does not want to go there unless absolutely necessary, so he will wait for Hansen to bring this up.
You like to have sex with older guys.
She said
Am I that guy?
No, she said that.
No, you said that. You're good at sucking. You said.
She said.
No, you said that.
No, please, sir.
As a little side thought, I do find it interesting that when confronted with clear evidence of his predatory behavior, he still doesn't seem to be able to recognize the error of his ways.
Have you ever had conversations like this with teenage girls on the internet before?
No, this is my first time.
Your first time?
Yes.
You know, I hear that a lot. Can you imagine why I'm a little skeptical on that?
Sir,
Well,
please.
virtually everybody who walks in this house says the same thing. Do you ever watch television?
Yes, I know, sir.
You know what?
The show, sir.
The show.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen the show on television?
Yes, a couple of times.
A couple of times. And you know what the show is called?
Dateline.
Dateline what? To Catch a Predator.
Sir, I'm not a really predator, sir, but I'm just.
You're not a real predator.
No, sir.
Just a pretend predator.
No, I'm just curious, sir.
A curious predator.
Looking beyond the humor of Chris's implication that Paul is a curious predator, I think this line is very telling. Paul says, "No, I'm not a predator, I'm just curious." And this is pretty much Paul wrapped up and summarized. He is curious, dangerously curious, and in his pursuit to satisfy that curiosity, he became a predator. We are not to know the timeline of when this happened, but it did happen, and his lack of recognition around why he may be classed as a predator is on another level. Any defense he has or will present is just ignorance.
I'm not a really predator, sir.
So you saw those other shows we did.
Yes, sir.
Then you probably know that I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and you know the story we're doing.
Yes, sir.
So,
Sir,
if there's
please.
anything else you'd like to tell us, we'd like to hear it. If not, you can walk out the door you came in.
Yeah, please. Just.
Clemente has left me with a lot of mixed feelings. On one hand, if my assumptions are correct, I can see what has led Paul to becoming a predator. Rejection and insecurity are very painful things. Things that many of us battle silently as we all try to get through each day and find our own little slice of peace. Yet on the other hand, there's plenty of people who have had more blows than he, both emotionally and physically, and this has not turned them to the predatory behavior that we saw with Paul. What is the trigger that makes one individual turn down this path and another not? I find myself pondering this very question as I think about my time with Paul here. Is it personal? Situational? Without more time and insight into these people, we will never really know. Although I do think that Paul would be an interesting person to speak to, and if it were possible for him to answer honestly, provide us some insights into what led him down that road.
You might want to. That's the wrong way, though. You want to. All right, Tommy, please put your hands up. Put your hands up.
I'm not a criminal,
Put your hands
sir.
up.
Hands up and take your shirt off.
Turn around. Put your hands up.
I'm not a criminal, sir.
Put your hands all the way up. Turn around. Turn around.
I'm not a criminal,
Go
sir.
down to your knees. Put your fingers nice and tight.
If you made it to the end of this video, that's a huge thank you as always. I know these videos are long and I really do appreciate the time that you take out of your day to watch them. If you're interested in supporting the show at all, I have a Patreon going where I post my thoughts and updates on where I'm at with making these videos. I'm also thinking of throwing up some videos there like previews and whatnot, but don't feel like you're missing out, it'll be nothing major. The main content will always be viewable for free here on YouTube. So with all that said and done, I hope you're all having a good one and staying out of trouble. I'll catch you next time. Take it easy.